Welcome to the YouTube channel, Contact Center Knowledge Hub, your one-stop solution for expert guidance, best practices, and actionable knowledge in the world of contact centers. Explore, learn, and enhance contact center skills. Let's see competency-based most important questions of forecasting method, Delphi. Let's see first competency, analytical thinking. Describe how you use analytical thinking when applying the Delphi forecasting method. Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When applying the Delphi forecasting method, I rely heavily on analytical thinking to ensure the outcome is credible and decision-ready. I deliberately break the Delphi process into clear analytical components. First, I evaluate variance between expert estimates to understand the level of disagreement and uncertainty. Variance tells me whether the forecast needs more refinement or scenario planning. Second, I identify hidden demand drivers, such as changes in average handle time, repeat calls, process complexity, marketing effects, or system dependencies. These drivers explain why numbers move, not just how much they move. Third, I compare assumptions across experts, looking for alignment, gaps, or contradictions. This helps separate strong logic from weak or biased reasoning. Fourth, I conduct sensitivity analysis, testing how small changes in assumptions could impact volume, staffing, or SLA outcomes. Finally, I convert the Delphi consensus into scenario ranges, best, likely, and worst, so leaders can make risk-aware decisions instead of relying on a single fragile number. By validating assumptions instead of simply averaging estimates, I ensure the Delphi output is data-informed, insight-driven, and analytically sound. This analytical approach ensures forecasts remain logical, evidence-backed, and actionable, which is the true purpose of Delphi forecasting. Next competency, decision-making under uncertainty. How do you make decisions when Delphi still shows high variance after multiple rounds? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When Delphi forecasting still shows high variance after multiple rounds, I don't force consensus. I change the decision framework. At that point, I deliberately shift from single number forecasting to scenario-based decision-making. I build 3 clear scenarios: a best case, a most likely case, and a worst case. Each scenario is grounded in the full range of expert assumptions uncovered through Delphi. I then choose the staffing and operational approach by evaluating the organization's risk appetite, SLA sensitivity and penalty exposure, customer experience impact, and the cost of under or overstaffing. This allows leaders to make explicit trade-offs, rather than hiding uncertainty behind a forced average. The core competency here is this. Strong decision-making under uncertainty means acknowledging risk, not eliminating it. By using scenario-based planning, I balance uncertainty with practical operational constraints and ensure decisions remain defensible and resilient. Next competency, stakeholder management. How do you manage conflicting views between OPS, client, and WFM during the Delphi process? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When managing conflicting views between operations, client teams, and workforce management during a Delphi process, my priority is to protect neutrality and trust. I do this through 5 deliberate actions. First, I enforce anonymous Delphi rounds, which removes hierarchy, politics, and positional influence from the discussion. Second, I shift focus from who said what to why it was said, highlighting rationale and assumptions rather than ownership of opinions. Third, I share synthesized insights, so everyone sees the full picture instead of isolated viewpoints. Fourth, I encourage logic-driven contributions, grounded in evidence and operational reality, not authority or seniority. And fifth, I align the group using transparent variance reduction tracking, so progress is visible and disagreements feel constructive rather than confrontational. This approach transforms disagreement into productive collaboration. The core competency here is stakeholder management, creating an environment where diverse perspectives are respected, debated objectively, and ultimately aligned around evidence-based consensus. That's how I maintain cross-functional trust while driving reliable Delphi outcomes. Next competency, communication skills. How do you communicate Delphi outputs to leadership who may not understand forecasting methodologies? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When communicating Delphi outputs to leadership, especially to leaders who are not deeply familiar with forecasting methodologies, I focus on business impact, not technical process. I start by clearly explaining why Delphi was necessary. For example, uncertainty due to a new launch, policy change, or missing historical data. This immediately frames Delphi as a decision support tool, not an academic exercise. Next, I explain the key drivers behind the forecast, such as customer behavior, process complexity, AHT changes, repeat calls, or marketing impact. Leaders care about what is causing demand, not the math behind it. Then, I show variance reduction across Delphi rounds to demonstrate increasing confidence and alignment. This builds trust in the output without overwhelming detail. After that, I present the final consensus as a risk-based recommendation, not as a single rigid number. I explain what the forecast means in terms of cost, SLA exposure, and customer experience. Finally, I provide clear scenario-based staffing strategies, best, likely, and worst, so leadership can see their options and make informed trade-offs. The core communication principle is this: leaders need insight, not methodology. By translating Delphi outputs into clear business language, I enable confident, timely, and well-informed decisions. Next competency, critical thinking. How do you evaluate whether an expert's assumptions are reliable in Delphi? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When evaluating whether an expert's assumptions are reliable in a Delphi exercise, I rely heavily on critical thinking, not intuition. I assess each assumption across 5 dimensions. First, the past accuracy of the expert. Have their assumptions proven reliable in similar situations before? Second, the evidence supporting their logic. Are their claims backed by data, observed customer behavior, or documented process changes? Or are they purely opinion-based? Third, operational reality. Does the assumption align with how the process actually works on the ground, including system constraints, agent capability, and workflow complexity? Fourth, customer behavior patterns. Does the assumption make sense given how customers typically react in similar scenarios? And fifth, cross-expert validation. Does the same assumption independently appear across multiple experts? Or is it an isolated viewpoint? Using this critical lens allows me to separate signal from noise. The core principle is this: reliable assumptions are evidence-backed, operationally realistic, and repeatable across experts. Critical thinking enables me to filter out biased or weak inputs, protecting the integrity and accuracy of the Delphi forecast. That discipline is what turns Delphi from opinion gathering into a rigorous decision support method. Next competency, problem solving. Tell me how you solved a complex forecasting problem using Delphi. Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When solving complex forecasting problems, I rely on Delphi when traditional models fail. Situation: a major product redesign fundamentally changed customer behavior. Historical patterns broke down, and traditional forecasting methods were no longer reliable. Problem: call volumes, channel mix, and average handle time became nonlinear and unpredictable, creating high risk of misstaffing and SLA failure. Approach: I applied the Delphi method to solve the problem analytically. I assembled a cross-functional expert panel and asked them to estimate expected customer confusion, likelihood of repeat calls, changes in digital adoption, and potential AHT increases due to process complexity. Through structured, anonymous Delphi rounds, experts shared not just numbers, but reasoning. After 2 Delphi iterations, forecast variance reduced from 40% to 9%. Key behavioral drivers were clearly identified, and assumptions aligned across teams. Outcome: this closed the forecasting gap that data alone could not solve. We staffed correctly for launch, protected service levels, and avoided both overstaffing and customer impact. Problem-solving insight: Delphi excels in nonlinear, unpredictable situations, where structured expert judgment is the only reliable way to model future demand. That's how I apply Delphi as a problem-solving tool, not just a forecasting technique. Next competency, leadership and facilitation. How do you lead a Delphi session to ensure strong participation and unbiased input? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When leading a Delphi session, my primary responsibility is to create an environment that encourages strong participation and unbiased input. I start by clearly setting ground rules. Anonymity is mandatory, mutual respect is expected, and all inputs must be evidence-based, not opinion-driven. As a facilitator, I focus on process leadership, not content ownership. I guide the group through structured Delphi rounds, ensuring every expert contributes independently. I summarize insights neutrally, deliberately avoiding language that could anchor or influence estimates. I encourage diverse perspectives, making sure quieter or non-dominant voices are fully represented through anonymity. And I continuously reinforce that rationale matters more than numbers. The leadership principle here is simple. Effective facilitation removes bias, not people. By protecting structure, neutrality, and inclusiveness, I ensure Delphi produces a high-quality, credible consensus that leaders can trust. Next competency, handling ambiguity. Question 8. How do you handle ambiguity when experts provide widely different assumptions? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When experts provide widely different assumptions, I don't try to eliminate ambiguity. I work with it deliberately. I start by focusing on why the differences exist, not just how large they are. First, I analyze the drivers behind the divergence. Are experts reacting to customer behavior, process gaps, technology risk, or communication issues? Second, I identify assumptions that can be validated early, such as HT shifts, repeat call patterns, or channel migration signals. Third, I assess the risks tied to each viewpoint, understanding what could go wrong if one assumption proves incorrect. Fourth, I translate uncertainty into scenario-based models: best, likely, and worst. So ambiguity becomes structured and actionable rather than confusing. The key insight is this: ambiguity is not a weakness, it is often a signal of hidden insight. The Delphi method helps convert that uncertainty into structured intelligence. And my competency ensures we don't ignore ambiguity or oversimplify it. We model it, plan for it, and make resilient decisions despite it. That's how I handle ambiguity with confidence and discipline. Next competency, risk management. Question 9. How do you use Delphi to proactively identify and mitigate operational risks? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. I use the Delphi method not only for forecasting demand, but as a proactive risk management tool. First, I use Delphi to capture early expert warnings. Signals like training gaps, system instability, policy ambiguity, or process readiness issues that may not yet appear in performance data. Second, I quantify those risks, translating qualitative concerns into measurable impacts, such as uplift percentages, AHT increases, or repeat call probability. Third, I incorporate these insights into risk-weighted forecasts, so demand projections reflect both volume expectations and operational exposure. Fourth, I design buffers and contingency staffing plans aligned to the identified risks, with clear activation triggers and response actions. The risk management principle is this: Delphi acts as a predictive risk radar, surfacing vulnerabilities before they become failures. By embedding risk detection into forecasting, I ensure decisions protect SLAs, customer experience, and cost, not react to problems after they occur. Next competency, collaboration. Question 10. How do you ensure cross-functional collaboration during Delphi forecasting? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When applying the Delphi forecasting method, I place strong emphasis on cross-functional collaboration. I deliberately create an inclusive environment where every expert's voice carries equal weight, regardless of role or seniority. Rationale matters more than designation, ensuring ideas are evaluated on logic and evidence. Conflicts are resolved through facts, assumptions, and impact analysis, not opinion or hierarchy. And structured dialogue replaces groupthink with critical collaboration. Through anonymity and disciplined facilitation, experts feel safe to challenge assumptions, share risks openly, and refine thinking without defensiveness. The result is not compromise, it is collective intelligence. This collaboration competency ensures that Delphi outcomes reflect cross-functional reality, balanced perspectives, and shared ownership of the forecast. That is how I turn diverse viewpoints into a unified, credible forecast that teams trust and act on. Next competency, adaptability. Question 11. How do you adapt Delphi when the business situation changes mid-forecast? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When the business situation changes mid-forecast, I don't try to force the original Delphi outcome to fit a new reality. I adapt the process itself. My first step is to initiate a rapid or refreshed Delphi cycle. So decisions are based on the current context, not outdated assumptions. If the change introduces new dynamics, I bring in additional subject matter experts who have direct visibility into the updated situation, such as product, marketing, or technology leads. Next, I reassess all core assumptions, challenging whether previous drivers around volume, average handle time, or customer behavior are still valid. I then adjust uplift percentages and HT impacts based on the new information and rebuild scenario models, best, likely, and worst, to reflect revised risk levels. The adaptability principle is this: Delphi is not a one-time exercise, it is a living decision framework. By recalibrating quickly when conditions change, I ensure forecasts remain relevant, accurate, and decision-ready, even in fast-moving or volatile business environments. That adaptability is what keeps Delphi effective under real-world conditions. Next competency, data interpretation. Question 12. How do you balance data trends with expert insights in Delphi forecasting? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When balancing data trends with expert insight in Delphi forecasting, I treat data as the starting point, not the final answer. I use data first to establish analytical baselines. Specifically, I analyze data to identify underlying trend baselines, detect anomalies or recent deviations, understand channel substitution patterns, and provide objective context before the Delphi rounds begin. Once that foundation is set, I invite expert judgment to refine it. Experts use their operational knowledge to adjust baselines for new processes or policy changes, account for behavioral shifts not yet visible in data, and challenge historical assumptions when data becomes misleading. The key competency is knowing when data is still predictive and when judgment must take the lead. The core principle is this: data explains what has happened. Delphi explains what is likely to happen next. By balancing both deliberately, I ensure forecasts remain grounded in evidence, while still adapting to future reality. Next competency, innovation and continuous improvement. Give an example of how you innovated or improved the Delphi process in your team. Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When it comes to innovation and continuous improvement, I look for ways to make Delphi clearer, faster, and more effective. Situation: I noticed that experts often struggle to compare assumptions across Delphi rounds. The summary outputs were accurate, but not granular enough to highlight where agreement or conflict truly existed. Challenge: this sometimes slowed convergence and required additional Delphi rounds, increasing effort without proportional insight. Innovation: to solve this, I introduced an assumption heat map, a simple but powerful visual tool. The heat map highlighted which assumptions were strong and evidence-backed, which assumptions were weak or speculative, areas of conflict between experts, and common themes consistently emerging across the panel. This allowed experts to immediately see where alignment already existed and where deeper thinking or clarification was still required. Impact: the results were measurable. In many cases, The number of Delphi rounds reduced from 3 to 2. Forecast convergence improved by 18%. And expert discussions became more focused and insight-driven rather than repetitive. Innovation insight. Continuous improvement doesn't mean changing the method, it means enhancing how insight is surfaced. By evolving the Delphi process thoughtfully, I ensured it became more efficient, more transparent, and more valuable for decision-making. Next competency, influencing without authority. Share an example where you influenced experts or leaders using Delphi insights without formal authority. Think for a moment. And the answer is here. Here's an example of how I influenced leaders without formal authority using Delphi insights. Situation. In one case, operations leadership believed that volume from a new policy change would remain low. Based on this assumption, there was resistance to adding staff. Challenge. I needed to influence the decision without confronting authority directly, and without positioning the discussion as opinion versus opinion. Approach. I used the Delphi method to let evidence speak. Through anonymous Delphi rounds, experts across functions independently forecasted a 40 to 50% volume uplift. Instead of challenging leadership's view head-on, I focused on how the insight emerged. I presented variance trends across Delphi rounds, showing clear convergence. Highlighted the consistency of rationales across independent experts. And framed the outcome using risk-based scenarios, explaining the operational and SLA exposure if the uplift was underestimated. This shifted the conversation from belief to evidence. Result? Leadership approved additional staffing without resistance or escalation. The decision felt collaborative rather than corrective. Influencing insight. Delphi is a powerful tool for influencing without authority, because it replaces persuasion with structured insight. By letting consensus and evidence lead the conversation, I was able to guide the outcome without confrontation, protecting both service performance and stakeholder relationships. Next competency, strategic alignment. How do you ensure Delphi forecasts align with organizational goals? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When using Delphi forecasting, I ensure strategic alignment by starting with the organization's broader goals, not with numbers. Before running Delphi, I clearly understand what leadership is optimizing for. Whether that is cost efficiency, SLA stability, digital adoption, customer experience, or a balance of all four. I then deliberately align the Delphi process to those objectives. First, I ask experts not only to estimate volume or AHT, but to assess the impact on key business KPIs such as service level, cost to serve, CSAT, or automation effectiveness. Second, I explicitly connect forecast drivers to business priorities. For example, how a volume spike could threaten SLA targets, or how higher AHT could erode cost efficiency. Third, I present Delphi outputs as strategic scenarios, clearly showing the cost, SLA, and CX implications of best, likely, and worst cases. This reframes Delphi from a forecasting exercise into a decision alignment tool. The strategic principle is this: a good forecast predicts demand. A great Delphi forecast guides strategic choices. By aligning insights to organizational goals, I ensure Delphi outcomes don't just explain what may happen. They actively support directional clarity and informed leadership decisions. Next competency, ethical judgment. How do you maintain ethical standards while moderating a Delphi panel? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When moderating a Delphi panel, maintaining ethical judgment is non-negotiable. I ensure ethical integrity through 5 deliberate practices. First, I maintain strict anonymity throughout the process. So no expert feels pressured by hierarchy, seniority, or politics. Second, I actively prevent dominant personalities from influencing outcomes. By ensuring all inputs are captured independently and evaluated on logic, not authority. Third, I avoid selective presentation of insights. I present both supporting and contradicting viewpoints transparently, even when they challenge preferred narratives. Fourth, I treat all expert inputs equally, using the same standards to evaluate assumptions, evidence, and rationale across contributors. And fifth, I document assumptions and reasoning clearly, so decisions can be audited, reviewed, and defended with confidence. The ethical principle is this: Delphi must never be used to validate a pre-decided outcome. Its value lies in uncovering truth through structured, unbiased judgment. By holding ethical standards firm, I ensure Delphi remains a trustworthy, professional, and credible forecasting method. One that leaders rely on not because it confirms beliefs, but because it reveals reality. Next competency, conflict resolution. Describe how you resolved a major conflict during the Delphi process. Think for a moment. And the answer is here. Here's an example of how I resolved a major conflict during a Delphi process. Situation: during a forecasting exercise, client subject matter experts and operations experts strongly disagreed. The disagreement became tense and stalled progress, putting the forecast and collaboration at risk. Task: my responsibility was to resolve the conflict, restore momentum, and ensure the Delphi process remained objective and credible. Action: I applied structured conflict resolution within the Delphi framework. First, I recentered the discussion on rationale, not authority, making it clear that titles and ownership were irrelevant, only evidence mattered. Second, I broke broad assumptions into measurable components, such as expected uplift, AHT impact, repeat call probability, and channel behavior. This shifted debate from opinions to testable elements. Third, I highlighted shared risks, showing that both teams were ultimately trying to protect SLAs, customer experience, and cost outcomes. Finally, I ran an additional anonymous Delphi round, specifically designed to remove emotional influence and allow experts to reassess their positions independently. Result: the conflict de-escalated quickly. Experts converged on a balanced, evidence-based forecast, and cross-functional trust was restored. The key insight is this: conflict dissolves when evidence replaces emotion. My conflict resolution competency ensured that Delphi remained a tool for alignment, not argument, and that the final forecast was both trusted and actionable. Next competency, systems thinking. How do you use systems thinking when analyzing Delphi forecasting insights? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When analyzing Delphi forecasting insights, I deliberately apply systems thinking. Because customer demand and contact center performance never operate in isolation. I start by mapping expert inputs across the end-to-end ecosystem, from customer triggers to operational outcomes. For example, marketing impact influences customer awareness and confusion, which directly drives call volume and channel mix. System outages or latency increase handle time, which creates queue congestion, staffing strain, and SLA risk. Training quality and agent readiness affect error rates and first contact resolution, which in turn generate repeat calls and secondary volume spikes. Rather than viewing these as separate forecasts, I connect them as cause and effect chains. This allows me to see ripple effects. How a small issue in one part of the system can amplify demand elsewhere. By applying systems thinking, I transform Delphi outputs from isolated estimates into system-level predictions that reflect real operational behavior. The key insight is this: forecast accuracy improves when we model the system, not just the symptom. This competency ensures we anticipate downstream impacts across customer experience, workforce management, and service performance, and plan proactively instead of reacting after the fact. Next competency, prioritization. When Delphi identifies many potential risks, how do you prioritize which ones to act on? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When Delphi identifies multiple potential risks, effective prioritization becomes critical. I never try to address everything at once. Instead, I apply a structured prioritization lens to focus resources where they matter most. I evaluate each risk across 6 dimensions. First, probability. How likely is this risk to occur? Second, severity. If it occurs, how damaging will it be? Third, customer impact. Will this risk directly affect customer experience or trust? Fourth, SLA exposure. Does it threaten service levels or contractual commitments? Fifth, cost of mitigation. What investment is required to reduce or absorb the risk? And sixth, time to respond. How quickly must we act before the risk materializes? Using these criteria, I prioritize high impact, medium to high probability risks first, especially those with direct customer and SLA implications. Lower impact or low probability risks are documented, monitored, and addressed through contingency planning rather than immediate action. The key principle is this: not all risks deserve equal attention, but every risk deserves deliberate judgment. Delphi helps quantify and surface these risks, and my prioritization competency ensures we respond strategically, not reactively, allocating resources where they deliver the greatest protection and value. Next competency, foresight and scenario planning. How do you apply foresight when using Delphi to create scenario-based forecasts? Think for a moment. And the answer is here. When applying Delphi forecasting, I deliberately use foresight and scenario planning to move beyond a single point prediction. I start by combining Delphi consensus with environmental scanning. This includes inputs from marketing plans, product roadmaps, seasonal patterns, customer sentiment, regulatory signals, and technology changes. Once I have this broader context, I translate Delphi insights into structured future scenarios. First is the baseline scenario, which reflects the Delphi likely consensus, the most probable outcome based on expert alignment. Second is the stress or worst-case scenario, which accounts for high-impact risks such as policy shocks, system instability, negative sentiment, or delayed automation benefits. Third is the optimistic or best case scenario, where adoption is smooth, customer behavior stabilizes quickly, and operational improvements take hold earlier than expected. Using foresight, I then ask, what could materially change customer behavior or operational demand over the forecast horizon? This allows me to anticipate times seasonal surges, times sudden policy or regulatory changes, times automation and self-service impact gaps, times shifts in market or customer expectations. The key insight is this: forecasting predicts demand. Foresight prepares the organization for multiple futures. By combining Delphi with scenario planning, I deliver a future-ready forecast. One that enables leadership to plan flexibly, protect SLAs, control costs, and respond confidently to uncertainty, rather than reacting after risks have already materialized. Thanks for watching my YouTube channel, Contact Center Knowledge Hub. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights. See you in the next video.